Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Dr. Victoria Grinman, and I'm dubbed the Parent Whisperer. And I'm going to share just a little bit about just me and what I have in store for you. My journey with PESI has been absolutely incredible, and I have had the opportunity to over the years speak to so many different professionals about the art of engaging children, engaging teenagers, engaging individuals around how to heal from trauma, complex trauma, utilizing variety of approaches from yoga and mindfulness to body-based approaches that we all really love. And now I have the opportunity to actually share with you an incredible seminar that is rolling out called Getting Unstuck, Mastering the Art of Parent Engagement. I'm really excited about this because it is very near and dear to my heart in terms of the topic. And I'm going to share with you exactly why. Child outcomes, right? We all want children to be happy, successful, right? And we want, especially if children are in therapy, for them to have the most successful experience that is sustainable and effective and efficient, because we want all of the things that we're doing to not just be effective in our sessions with kids and teenagers, but also throughout their lifetime. What I've noticed and what we know is that when children are anxious or they're dealing with all of the things that are going on right now, from the pressures at school to the changes that the pandemic has brought to the dynamics in the homes that have actually been exacerbated and highlighted because of the recent changes that have been going on, they require so much support. So when kids land in therapy, we found that parent engagement, when it's done successfully, when we actually are able to enroll and partner with parents in the therapeutic setting, the anxiety shoots down, and the deep connection and the feeling of empowerment and clarity shoots up. So we know that this works, right? So over the last 2 decades, I'll share with you and I'll be really vulnerable. I've had the opportunity to work with many different kinds of families. I've had the opportunity to work with families of different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds. I've worked with higher profile families that have very unique differences and challenges in their dynamics, to families that are really struggling just in their environment and really being able to function day to day, right? So it really runs the gamut. And what I found is that engaging parents in the work has been super difficult. And I've also been you. I've been one of those therapists that have sat inside of the therapy session thinking, oh my gosh, if I could just work with the child or if I could just work with the teenager, I would be happy, right? Because engaging parents is so difficult sometimes. There's a lot of reluctance, there's a lot of challenge. And I will be completely transparent that in the beginning of my career, there were times where I said, you know what? I would rather refer this kid out, or you know what? I'm just going to cut the parent out and I'll just do what I have to, but I'm going to just do effective work with the child. What I noticed though is that in my mission to actually create sustainable change for families, I noticed that if I cut the parent out, or if I didn't really focus on what was in the way of me engaging them effectively, what would happen is this child or this teenager or even young adult would go back to an environment that was just the same. It was ineffective. And so it was quite literally unraveling all of the gains that we had created inside of the session. And I also knew that in order to help the child, I had to learn how to support the parent, regardless of the challenges that were in front of me. And so I knew I had to find a way. I knew I had to do that because I wanted to help the child. I wanted to make sure that they were not just receiving the support from me, but that they were also receiving the support from their caregivers and really essentially the people in their life that matter a lot to them, right? We know that, and I'll talk about this in the seminar extensively, that parents are children's most important external resource. And children have internal resources, which we'll talk about, and we'll talk about how to actually leverage them and harness them. But that parents are the most important external resource for children. So I knew that in order to really help them, I had to engage the parent. And so over time, I began to understand the core issues that were actually inherent in the challenges and the reluctance that I was perceiving inside of the work. And I learned how to actually enroll parents and become partners with them in the work. And this was one of the most exhilarating things once I started to get good at it, because I realized that beyond the challenge and underneath the hood of all of the reluctance lied a set of parents or a parent that really, really wanted to get it right, that was living in a world of a lot of pressures, a lot of comparison, right? And lots of parents who were comparing their insides to other people's outsides. So when I really got to the core issues of what was going on, I began to become quite efficient and effective in enrolling parents, even the most challenging parents that there were. And now I say air quotes challenging because I don't see them as challenging. I see them as people who are trying to do their best. And it's really my job to understand what is standing in the way of them doing their best in the way that will support their child and really honestly themselves and their entire family. And remembering that parents also have their parenthood journey. People have their childhoods, but parents have a journey that will last for as long as they have their child, right? For as long as they're alive, their parenthood journey continues. And so I knew that it was really, really important to engage them, because if we have a happy parent, we have a happy child a lot of the times. In my household, I don't know if you're anything like this, but when I was younger, I used to say, "Oh man, mom is not happy, so it's like not a happy not a happy household." And what did I mean by that? When one of the parents is off, right? It really does impact the energy and the flow of the family. And then when we think about some of the clients that we work with, they have not only just the normative and typical things going on, but they also have other stresses that are insurmountable to them to really deal with. And then when it really overwhelms their natural ability to cope, that's where we see a lot of breakdown. So engaging parents and making sure that they feel supported, empowered, confident, and super clear even in some of the most challenging circumstances, is important to me. And I know that it's important to you because you're such amazing clinicians. And so I developed very, very effective ways of actually engaging and partnering parents in the work. And this is what I'm actually going to be sharing with you during the seminar. Now, one of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you that I think is really, really exciting, in addition to all of that, is something that I realized very, very early on. And this is something that I'll be diving into very deeply, but I'll give you a taste right now. I realized that my mindset and my belief system, okay, so our mindset and our beliefs, which are really just thoughts that we continue to have, right? That's what a belief is made of, are these thoughts that we continue to have over and over, really were tied inextricably to the skills that I had working with parents. So it meant that regardless of how smart, and I am smart and I am resourced, and I've taken every course there is and I continue to do that, but that was not enough. I realized that there is a special mindset that I needed to have, and I trained myself in it in order to be really, really effective with parents in a sustainable way. Now, I'll share with you something that happened very recently. I was at a networking event, and I love those things because, you can go to an event and meet different professionals, and I'm very, very selective with who I refer people to. And there were many professionals there, just like myself, and it was really exciting to meet them. And I met a couple who work with children. And I love working with therapists that work with children. I work with children, but I also know that I am only one person, right? And so I need to have referral sources. I need to be able to really, say, hey, you know what? I don't have room in my practice, but I know someone who's really great and can take you on. And so I was speaking to a therapist, and maybe you relate to her because I used to be her. The therapist said, "Oh, I love working with my little ones. I love working with my little, my little," she called them pumpkins. She was such a wonderful professional, and I could just tell that she really loved what she does. And then she says, "But I love that you love working with parents and couples because I'm just going to give them all to you." And I said to her, "What do you mean? So you don't work with parents or couples, you just work with the child?" And she said, "That's just not my wheelhouse. That's just not my wheelhouse. That's just not what I do." And I don't know if you relate to her, but I used to be her, as I said, and I used to have these reasons for why I didn't want to engage certain people in the work. And oftentimes we see this also when we're working with couples, right? I don't want to work with a couple. I just want to work with an individual. I want to work with an individual because it's just one person to manage. I want to work with an individual because it's just, it's too much if you work with more than one. So I don't want the couples. I don't want the parents. I don't want the family work. And so if you relate to this, it's okay. It's normal, right? Sometimes to feel overwhelmed and lacking in confidence around this stuff. And why? Because you're so good at other things and you're confident with other things, but this might be novel to you. But we know that it's really important to try to really harness and nurture some of the tools to work with parents in an effective way. And so, in this session, I will actually provide the permission for us to focus on ourselves, for us to kind of put the parent on the shelf for a moment in our proverbial minds and focus on what is going on for me, what is my mindset and my beliefs. And I'm going to help you bust some myths about who you have to be in sessions with parents. I'm going to help you understand what your role with parents is. And there are three major roles that I'm going to share with you. Okay. And I'm also going to share with you who you're not going to be. I'm going to share with you now that who you're not supposed to be is a referee. Okay. You are not a glorified referee plucked out of your world and into that family dynamic to have people stop arguing. That is not your role. But oftentimes, that is probably what you feel like, and therefore you don't want it. So, I'm going to share with you who you have to be in order to be effective, and it's going to really boost your confidence. Okay. The second thing that I'm going to share with you that is of utmost importance is ways to actually co regulate with the parent. And what I mean by co-regulation, it's like the distinction between co-escalation and co-regulation. I remember when I was a little girl, I used to, have this with my father where I would say something, he would say something. I would say something louder, he would say something louder. I would say it louder, he would go louder. And then all of a sudden there was this crescendo, and it's what we call co-escalation. And oftentimes, unfortunately, no matter how good we are in sessions with kiddos or teenagers, continues to happen in the home, the parent has such a hard time staying regulated through their child's dysregulation. And one of the main tools around this is learning how to regulate ourselves as therapists. We can then model that in session for parents and actually be the conduit and the vessel through which both the parent and the child experience that, so that when they're done here with us, they can go on and do it themselves and it be this sustainable way of actually having communications and having a dynamic that's grounded in connectedness and love and compassion, even when there are things happening. Important to say because I'm not that you're going to become a master at creating, but what I will help you do is what I help myself do over almost 2 decades of this. Okay. And I've perfected it to a formula almost of how to support parents and children in connecting deeply, not despite, but sometimes because of the difficult dynamics that they're in. And that's the post-traumatic growth, expert in me. I always see the possibility in the parent, and I always see the possibility in the connection that they can have in their specific family dynamic. Because again, every family and every dynamic is different. And also, thirdly, what I'll share with you, which I think is incredible because I have gotten questions about this in past seminars that I've done with PESI all over the country. And so I'm really excited to infuse this 1 day experience in the seminar with you. What it is that you can share with parents and psychoeducate them about in order for them to feel confident and empowered. And I'll share with you why that's important. Many of the parents that I've worked with are extremely smart. They are successful people in many different ways. Some are artists, some are, work in corporate, some are, working 4 jobs to support their families, over functioning, doing it all. Incredible, incredible, incredible parents. And what I find is that they come to sessions oftentimes not feeling confident in their role as a parent, as they do in so many other areas of life. And because of this lack of confidence, they often resort to really ineffective ways of communicating with their children, of dealing with their own stress around not knowing the right thing to do or the right thing to say, or, how to engage in sessions and, what are they going to look like to the therapist? And they need to show how smart they are. And all of a sudden, everything comes crashing down. And I realized that the reason this is happening, I'm going to share with you a few reasons during this seminar, right? But I'm going to share with you now one of the main reasons why this is happening. It happens because parents don't have the information sometimes that they need in order to feel confident to really go through and flow through some of the things that happen with their kids. And the things that they need to know, the information that they need, is really about the development of their child, right? What are their needs developmentally, psychologically, spiritually, mentally, physiologically, right? Like, what are the needs that their children have? And then, secondly, what is the parent's role in fulfilling the needs for their children? And thirdly, what are the needs that the parent has as a human being, as well as the parent, right? And what is not getting met for them, right? That is contributing to their experience as a parent, and then therefore their experience in the therapy session with you. So I'm going to share all of that with you. And I'm going to also tell you my approach to unpacking this with parents. Because remember, just because this information is interesting to me and you, right? Because we're psychologically minded, we're clinicians, does not mean that parents are going to find this interesting. 99% of the time, I find that I'm the weird one because I'm so interested in this stuff. But a lot of the times, this information dysregulates parents, and it dysregulates them because it's a lot, right? It's a lot of information. And it's different for when a child is a toddler. It's different for when a child is in middle school. It's different for when they're, a teenager. And for parents, it's hard because the moment their child, is a toddler and they think they got it, guess what? Their child's not a toddler anymore. They become someone who's now in middle school or grade school, right? And they have to relearn all this stuff. So it's not an easy journey. I'm going to share with you in this seminar, and I know it's a lot of stuff, but it's one day and it's going to be really expansive and transformational. What it is that you need to share with parents, how to share it effectively so that they really get the importance of their engagement and they're enrolled, right? And they're enrolled not because you're selling it to them, but I'm going to teach you how to inspire parents to want to be part of this process and to want to try on these new ways of being. Okay. This is really, really exciting. Now, as we sort of, turn to the closing of our time together today, I really want to give you a glimpse into one of the tools that I'm going to use with you in this 1 day transformational experience with me. And it's something that I do all the time. In fact, I have a family coming in about an hour. So I'm going to do this with them. Okay. I'm going to do this with them. And I'm doing it in my office without them here. And I say with them, even though they're not here, because it's part of my experience of setting up the session. And that is something that we're going to go through during the seminar. I'm going to share with you how I set up my session, the syntax of the session. What's syntax? It's like, I'm not a baker. I'm more of a chef. I love to cook, but I've heard, I've heard stories. I will eat baked goods, but I don't bake. When you bake cookies or you bake a cake, if you have the eggs and you have the flour and you have the milk and you have all of these things, but you don't preheat the oven, right? What's going to happen? Are you going to bake your cookies? Probably not, right? Because that part of the syntax is so, so important. And what I notice a lot of the times, and this happened with me so much, that's why I know how to, share this with you in such a masterful way. When we forget certain parts of the process of setting ourselves up for success, we then don't set the family up for success. So I'm going to share with you the many things that I do, really, really simple, okay, but it's going to be on you to actually practice in order to have a successful session with a parent and child or family. Okay. And one of the things that I do, and I'm going to share it with you now, and I encourage you to do this alongside me. And it's a lengthy process on the back end. So definitely do it after we're done here. But I ask myself 3 questions, okay? And you can write these questions down. As one of my mentors said, better a dull pencil than a dull mind. So if you've been writing down notes during this time with me, awesome. And so write this down because this is one of the reflexive things that I do. I ask myself, what is my mission? And if you don't know what I mean by that, many years ago, and it keeps shifting, I wrote down and I continue to read every day. It's actually something that I go over on my way to the office when I'm on my way to the office or while I'm getting ready in the morning. What is my mission in my work today? Right? I look at my calendar, maybe the way that you look at your calendar and you say, "Oh, I have this person and this person and this family coming in and this family." And I think about my day. And I set myself up around my mindset. And the first thing is, what is my mission? Now, I'm going to share my mission with you because I know it by heart. My mission is to be a vessel for change for people, that who I am being in the world is someone who really supports the eradication of intergenerational trauma by being who I'm being, by allowing people in front of me the opportunity and the permission to really connect deeply. And so I know that I am that. That is my mission, to be that kind of person that helps families really cut through the dynamics that don't work so that children no longer have to deal with that, right? And children can have the kinds of childhoods that they want and deserve, and that parents can have the kind of parenthood experience that they've always dreamed of, even when it's not always so easy. So that's my mission. And I can say that to you so easily because, as you know, I've been practicing it. right? I just told you I practice it, so it's in my being. Once you get really, really tied to your mission of why you're doing what you're doing, the second thing I go into, what is my intention with this client? So if I have a family coming in and I know exactly what's going on for them and I think back to the session prior and the goals that we have, the second question I ask, write this down, is what is my intention? What am I intending for this session? And as you'll see, intention is a huge, huge part of the syntax that I'm going to go into during the time that we're going to spend in the seminar. But for now, just think about, what am I intending here as a clinician? Is my intention to, de-escalate stuff? A lot of times an intention for me is to, create an environment where we can have fruitful conversation around this child's anxiety and how the parent might be contributing to it, right? And it be compassionate and it be really holding space for both, right? So really get clear on what your intention is for that session. And then the third thing I ask myself is, who do I have to be in order to carry out this intention? And that really grounds me inside of who I have to be right now. So if I'm coming from a really difficult morning at the vet, because my little Yorkie oftentimes has like digestive issues that are causing me stress, or if I'm, coming out of a really tough session, or I'm running in from a networking lunch and I am just, busting at the seams, like, not having time to prepare. It doesn't matter what's happening for me. This third question always grounds me in, who do I have to be in order for that intention to get carried out? Right? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how the session is going to go. I don't know what the intentions are of the parents or the child coming in, but who do I have to be? And oftentimes that is really clear, right? Who I have to be is someone who is regulated myself, who I have to be is someone who is kind with myself and others, right? And I have to sometimes let myself off the hook because I am not the end all be all of how this time goes, but I can just really, focus on that. And I always end with a grounding practice, which I'm going to share numerous with you during this time together during the seminar. Okay. So do that homework. I invite you to do it not for anyone else but yourself. Because as a therapist, you did not start doing this work because it didn't bring you joy. You started this work because maybe you were good at it, but also because you love supporting people. And one of the things that leads to great burnout is when we are not aligned with our mission, our intention, and who we want to be and who we have to be to really be people that create that kind of change for others. So I invite you to think about all of these things, and you really have two choices. The first choice is you can go on and continue to do the things the way that you've been doing it, because I'm sure you're doing a great job, okay? Or you can attend this seminar and join me in a conversation that is not just about strategies and tips, but it's about a whole holistic view of how we can be the change agents in these children's lives through supporting their parents. I appreciate your time and I can't wait to see you.